மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. தேங்க்யூ.
Variation. That's to say he puts his bishop on c8 on f5 instead of g4. Possibly this is an underestimated approach for black. We'll just run through the main line now, and we're going to take a look at the game Yagupov versus Balashov, Moscow, 1996. Once again we see white building up to the exchange variation, taking on d6, and Yagupov plays his knight out to f3. Okay, quite what difference this makes is not clear. It's just that white is juggling with the move order slightly. So here white's not developing his knight on c3 early on. And now Balashov plays an interesting move, bishop out to f5, which seems perfectly legal. It looks very sensible to the alternative development on g4. And if white chooses the typical plan in this variation of advancing his kingside pawns with, say, h3 and g4, as we saw earlier in the game Mortis and Kengis, then black might well save time on that game, because, of course, he hasn't put his bishop out on g4 and had to waste any time with retreating that bishop. So this is an interesting move. Obviously, the development of the bishop to f5 is perfectly legal, and the bishop is active on that square. Well, judge for yourselves. The continuation of this game is rather interesting. Very similar to what we've seen before, but with that small difference that the bishop's already on f5 instead of g4. So the same type of position, and here Balashov reacts in typical style with the pawn up to d5, c5, knight c8 routine. I suppose one argument that could mitigate in favour of putting the bishop on g4 is that the f5 square is no longer available for a knight. At any rate, it will take black longer to put a knight there. Well, once again, I ask you to judge for yourself when you see the continuation of this game, because here we see Yagupov limbering up with the typical plan of advancing the kingside pawns against the exposed black bishops. Well, Balashov played h6. Pawn comes up to g3, and black retreated his bishop to h7. Now, traditionally, the black bishop will be on e6 in this type of structure. So the time that black has gained by putting his bishop on h7 in one go, rather than bishop g4 to f5 to h7, I think improves his prospects of counterplay. And you'll see the black counterplay in this game kicking in quite a bit earlier than normal, as we are about to witness. So knight to g2, traditional idea. White would like to put that knight on f4. Possibly he's envisaging f4 himself. And here we see black coming to life with b6, as is quite normal. And now knight to a4 was played. And that's already a slight concession, because white is moving the knight out of the centre. The main reason white does that, of course, is that if he takes on b6 here, this time, as opposed to what Kengis did, a takes b6 is possible. Knight comes to f4, knight comes to e7, bishop comes to f3. Black has knight b4, and I think that move saves the day, because black's already threatening the move knight c2 in this position, which is a little bit awkward to meet, actually. So, seeing that, probably, going back to the game, Yagupov preferred to play knight a4, but now knight b4 anyway. And here we see the counterplay starting to kick in for black, you know, just a little bit earlier than normal, which puts white on the back foot to a certain degree. And now knight c2 might be an awkward move to meet, and if not, then the knight on b4 is on a pretty good square. Well, white went knight e1. He wouldn't have wanted to have done that, having just put the knight on g2, but I guess his idea is that he's going to play queen d2, hit the knight, and when black's knight retreats, he can go back to g2 with familiar counterplay. But again, black kicks in with his own counterplay first. This is the counter-punching play, you know, typical of the Alekhine. And the idea is he wants to put that knight on d6. So black has found a very satisfactory square for this knight. Normally that knight will be on e7. You see how the game has changed just because black has been able to get his counterplay together that much earlier. Well, queen d2 as discussed, and now black played a5. Fair enough. a3. It's hard to criticise such a natural move, but after the game, Chekhov suggested the move f3 here, which takes away the square e4. Well, after that, rook e8 looks logical to me. Rook c1, queen e7, knight g2, and, well, this position is just very messy. It's hard to say exactly what's going on. I would say both sides have chances. You know, the better player's going to win. Certainly black is doing fine. He's got all his pieces on decent squares. You know, it's very difficult to call positions like this. You're going to have to be thrown back on your own resources. But certainly, this does seem okay for black. Anyway, going back to the game, and white played a3. Okay, knight comes back to c6. Problem with a3, I think, it creates weaknesses on the queen side, which white has to nurse the whole game through. And, well, you know, but white's problem is in this position, it's already too late for the move f3. If he plays f3, terrible mistake, black has rook takes e3, and the bishop takes d4. So, you know, there are reasons why white can't do what he would like to do after rook e8. And instead he chose knight b7. Okay, well, that's forcing. Black's got to take. Rook takes c6, knight comes back to d6. Finally, white gets to play the move he wanted to play, taking away central light squares from black. And now rook b8. And here we see the problems associated with the move a3. White has these queenside weaknesses, which he'd much rather not have. So probably black's a little bit better in this position because of his rook coordination and the fact that he's taking white a little bit of time to unravel there. Bishop d3 was played, and now of course it will be a catastrophic blunder for black to take on b3 because a bishop takes h7 check and then queen c2 check, winning the rook. No way is black going to do that. Balashov takes on d3, queen takes d3, queen comes up to d7. In a situation like this, white would much rather have his rooks connected, of course. Rook comes back to c1, and now queen comes out to b5. And if there was a move which highlights the weakness on the queen side for white, this is it. In fact, I think queen b5 just wins a pawn, because white's got all these weak spots, and he can't defend them all. So, well, white's basically got a very bad game in this position. Queen takes b5 was played. Just going back, I suppose white could consider rook c3 in this position. But after that, I think queen takes d3, rook takes d3, and then rook takes e3 is good enough. Rook takes e3, bishop takes d4, and this must win for black, I would think. So, going back to the game, queen takes b5 is probably forced. Knight takes b5. Two weaknesses for white. Bishop f2, knight takes d4, rook takes c7, rook takes b3, and now with extra material and better piece coordination, the black win is not so far away. Once again, it's a question of technique, so I'm going to go through these moves relatively quickly. Okay, rook c5, rook takes a3, there's nothing difficult here. Black brings his knight in, then he brings his rook down. It really is, sorry, excuse me, hang on a minute, I'm getting so bored with these moves. White should be resigning that I forgot to play king h1, excuse me. Rook comes down to a1, rook comes to d6, bishop c3, rook comes to c6. Black completes the protection and coordination of his pieces. Rook comes to c4, pawn to g5, fixing those kingside pawns. Rook e4, desperation. The outpost is created and occupied. Bishop g3, and the move was accompanied by simultaneous resignation, because white probably noticed at this last minute that knight d3 just wins the house here. So that's the first of the thought-provoking games where black brings his bishop out to f5 early. I hope you enjoyed it, and well, certainly an interesting option for black, I would say.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. தேங்க்யூ.